The little girl's whisper was so faint that Kong Min-jae almost missed it. He stood beneath the crystal lights of his family's mansion, surrounded by silent staff members, shattered glass, and the expensive necklace that had just been pulled from his nanny's suitcase. Across the marble foyer, Nia Brooks was being escorted toward the front doors. She did not beg. She did not cry. She did not look back at the people who had already decided she was guilty. But 7-year-old Kongso watched her leave with tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Min-jae lowered himself beside his daughter. "Seoa," he said carefully. "Why are you crying?" The girl stared at the closing doors. Then she grabbed the sleeve of his suit and whispered 5 words that made the blood drain from his face. She was right about Grandma. Before Min-jae could ask what she meant, Seoa's body suddenly went limp in his arms. And somewhere upstairs, behind the locked door of his late wife's bedroom, a phone began to ring. A phone that had not been switched on in 3 years. But to understand why those 5 words terrified one of Korea's most powerful men, we have to return to 3 days earlier, when Nia Brooks noticed something everyone else in the mansion had been paid not to see. And before we continue, tell us where you are watching from. If you enjoy emotional stories filled with mystery, justice, and unexpected love, subscribe and stay with us, because the truth hiding inside this mansion was far more dangerous than anyone imagined. 3 days earlier, the Kong residence looked peaceful from the outside. It stood on a private hillside overlooking Seoul, hidden behind black iron gates, tall pine trees, and enough security cameras to make visitors feel as though the house itself was watching them. Inside, however, peace was something carefully performed. The staff moved quietly. The clocks never ticked too loudly. Doors were closed gently. And nobody raised their voice within hearing distance of Kong Min-jae. At 38, Min-jae was the CEO of Kangseong Hotels, a luxury hospitality empire with properties across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Business magazines described him as disciplined, brilliant, and impossible to intimidate. His employees used simpler words: cold, demanding, untouchable. Nia Brooks had never believed any of them completely. She had worked in his home for almost 2 years, caring for his daughter, and she had seen things the public never would. She had seen Min-jae sit outside Seoa's bedroom at 2 in the morning because the child had refused to sleep. She had seen him secretly learn how to braid doll hair because Seo once complained that he always made her toys look frightened. She had seen him pause outside the family portrait in the upstairs hallway, staring at the smiling face of his late wife as though he were still waiting for her to step out of the frame. Min-jae was not without emotion. He simply treated emotion like confidential information. Nia understood that kind of silence. She had built her own life around it. At 32, she had already learned that people often mistook gentleness for weakness. They saw a black woman with warm brown skin, kind eyes, and a patient voice, and assumed she would tolerate anything to keep her job. They were wrong. Nia was kind because she chose to be. She was patient because children deserved patience. But she was also observant, stubborn, and almost impossible to frighten once she believed someone vulnerable was in danger. That morning, she sat beside Seoa at the long kitchen table, watching the girl push tiny pieces of strawberry around her plate. "You normally finish those before I can sit down," Nia said. He shrugged without looking up. "Not hungry. You said that yesterday." "I wasn't hungry yesterday either." Nia rested the back of her fingers against the girl's forehead. "No fever." Phil looked pale. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes, and her small hand trembled slightly as she lifted her cup. "Did you sleep well?" The girl nodded too quickly. Nia noticed. She always noticed. Before she could ask another question, the kitchen door opened. Kong Mi-suk entered carrying a small silver tray. Min-jae's aunt was an elegant woman in her early 60s, always dressed as though photographers might appear without warning. Her dark hair was pinned neatly at the back of her head, and a pearl brooch gleamed against her cream jacket. She smiled at her. "There is my precious girl." Who immediately lowered her eyes. Nia noticed that too. Mi-suk placed a small glass bottle beside the child's plate. "The doctor says she must not miss another dose." Nia picked up the bottle before Soa could reach for it. The label carried the name of the family clinic, along with Soa's information. But the liquid inside was a slightly different color from what Nia remembered. The previous bottle had been clear. This one carried a faint yellow tint. Was her prescription changed? Nia asked. Misuk's smile remained in place, but the warmth disappeared from it. The doctor adjusted it. What was changed? I wasn't aware nannies required medical explanations. Nia held her gaze. I'm responsible for giving it to her. I need to know what I'm giving her. For several seconds, neither woman moved. Then Misuk reached across the table and removed the bottle from Nia's hand. You are responsible for following instructions. Soa's fingers curled beneath the table. Nia saw the movement. Misuk poured the medicine into a spoon and held it toward the girl. Fu turned her face away. No, Soa, Misuk warned. It makes my head strange. The kitchen fell silent. Nia looked sharply at the child. What do you mean, strange? Fu stared at the floor. Everything gets far away. Misuk gave a quiet laugh. Children exaggerate. Her doctor explained that mild drowsiness is normal. But Nia remembered the previous afternoon. Soa had fallen asleep while standing beside the window. 2 days earlier, she had forgotten the name of her favorite teacher. And the night before that, she had woken screaming that someone had entered her room, though the security system showed no record of anyone opening the door. Nia reached out and took the spoon from Misuk. She is not taking this until I speak to her father. The older woman's face hardened. You seem to have forgotten your position. No, Nia replied calmly. I remember it perfectly. My position is beside that child. Misuk stepped closer. And who gave you the authority to challenge this family? Nia glanced at Soa, who was now gripping the edge of her chair. The moment she said the medicine made her feel strange. A deep voice came from the doorway. What is happening? Kong Min-jae stood there in a charcoal suit, one hand resting against the doorframe. The entire atmosphere changed. Misuk turned toward him with a wounded expression. Nia is refusing to give Soa the medication her doctor prescribed. Min-jae's eyes moved to Nia. Is that true? Yes. His expression tightened. Why? Nia lifted the bottle. Because this is not the same medication she was taking last week. Fu says it makes her dizzy and confused. She has also been unusually tired, and she is having nightmares. Misuk sighed. Min-jae, the doctor warned us that the child might experience side effects. Nia is allowing personal emotion to interfere with medical judgment. I'm asking for the prescription to be verified, Nia said. Min-jae extended his hand. She placed the bottle in it. He studied the label, but his attention was already being pulled elsewhere. His phone vibrated repeatedly inside his jacket. A major acquisition meeting was scheduled in less than an hour, and 3 executives were waiting in the driveway. This came from the family clinic, he asked. Yes, Misuk answered. Dr. Choi approved it. Personally. Min-jae handed the bottle back. Then follow the prescription. Nia did not take it. Mr. Kong, something is wrong. Misuk's eyes narrowed. Min-jae looked at Nia with visible impatience. You have raised your concern. I have heard it. Hearing me and checking are not the same thing. The kitchen staff froze. Nobody spoke to Kong Min-jae that way. He took one slow step toward her. Are you accusing my daughter's doctor of harming her? I'm saying your daughter is afraid of medicine she was never afraid of before. Children become afraid of many things. She is also afraid of your aunt. Misuk's face changed. Only for a second, but Nia saw it. Min-jae did too. He looked down at Soa. Is that true? The little girl stared at her plate. Misuk rested a hand on her shoulder. Soa flinched. It was almost invisible. Almost. Nia's voice softened. Soa, nobody is angry with you. You can tell your father. The child's lips parted. Before she could speak, a loud crash echoed from the second floor. Everyone looked toward the ceiling. Then came the sound of running footsteps. One of the housemaids appeared at the kitchen entrance, pale and breathless. "Mr. Kong." Min-jae turned. "What happened?" The woman hesitated. "It's your mother. We found her on the floor." Min-jae rushed upstairs, with Mi-suk following close behind. Nia remained beside Soa, but the girl suddenly grabbed her wrist with surprising force. "Nia! What is it?" So looked toward the doorway, making certain nobody else could hear. Then she leaned closer. "It happened after Grandma drank the tea." Nia's body went still. "What happened after she drank it?" Seoa's eyes filled with fear. "She fell." Nia glanced at the untouched medicine bottle sitting on the table. "Who gave her the tea?" Seo swallowed. "Aunt Mi-suk." Before Nia could ask another question, Seo reached into the pocket of her school cardigan and pulled out something wrapped in a white handkerchief. She placed it in Nia's palm. Inside was a small silver key. Nia frowned. "What does this open?" Seo looked toward the staircase. "Mommy's room." The room that had remained locked since Min-jae's wife died. Nia closed her fingers around the key. "Why are you giving this to me?" The child's answer came in a trembling whisper. "Because Grandma said if anything happened to her, you were the only person I should trust." Upstairs, someone shouted for an ambulance. And as Nia stared at the key in her hand, she understood something that made her blood run cold. Seoa's grandmother had not fallen by accident. She had known something was going to happen. And she had prepared the child for it. The silver key felt cold in Nia's hand. Upstairs, hurried footsteps shook the silence of the mansion as staff members rushed toward Madame Kang's bedroom. Seo remained beside the kitchen table, staring at Nia with frightened eyes. "Did Grandma tell you what was inside your mother's room?" Nia asked. The girl shook her head. "She only said I should give you the key if she fell asleep and wouldn't wake up." Nia's stomach tightened. Madame Kang had expected this. Not the exact moment perhaps, but the danger. "Did she say anything else?" Seo nodded slowly. "She said not to tell Aunt Mi-suk." Before Nia could respond, Mi-suk appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp. "What are you two whispering about?" Seo immediately pulled away from Nia. Nia closed her fingers around the key and slipped her hand into the pocket of her dress. Seoa is frightened. Mi-suk entered the room. "Her grandmother has suffered a fainting episode. There is no need to make it worse by filling the child's head with alarming ideas." "Has the ambulance arrived?" "It is on the way." "And Dr. Choi?" "He is already coming." Nia looked at the medicine bottle still sitting on the table. Mi-suk followed her gaze. Then she picked it up. "I'll handle this from now on." Nia stepped between her and Seoa. "The child isn't taking another dose until the prescription is verified." Mi-suk's mouth tightened. "You are dangerously close to losing your job." Nia held her stare. "If protecting her costs me my job, then you should have fired me yesterday." For the first time, Mi-suk's polished expression cracked. It was not anger Nia saw beneath it. It was calculation. The sound of an ambulance approaching the mansion broke the tension. Mi-suk turned and left without another word. Nia waited until the footsteps disappeared. Then she crouched in front of Seo. "You're going to stay with Ms. Park in the library while I check on your grandmother." The girl gripped Nia's sleeve. "Don't leave me. I'll come back. Promise." Nia hesitated only long enough to understand the weight of the word. "I promise." Upstairs, Madame Kang lay unconscious beneath a thin blanket while two paramedics checked her vital signs. Min-jae stood near the bed. His tie loosened and his phone forgotten in his hand. His usual control had vanished. He watched every movement the paramedics made as though refusing to blink might keep his mother alive. "What happened?" Nia asked from the doorway. Min-jae did not look at her. "The housemaid found her beside the dressing table." "Did she eat or drink anything?" Mi-suk answered before anyone else could. "She had breakfast as usual." "She drank tea," Nia said. Mi-suk turned sharply. Min-jae finally looked at her. How do you know? Seo saw Aunt Misuk give it to her. The room became still. Misuk laughed once, but it sounded forced. I give my sister-in-law tea every morning. What kind? Chamomile. Where is the cup? Misuk's gaze shifted toward the bedside table. There was no cup. One of the housemaids lowered her eyes. Nia noticed. Where is it? She repeated. The maid swallowed. I took it downstairs. Why? Madam Misuk told me to wash it. Misuk's face hardened. Because it was dirty. Must every ordinary action now become a conspiracy? Min-jae looked between them. That's enough. Nia stepped closer. Your mother warned Seo that something might happen to her. Misuk's eyes flashed. What? Min-jae stared at Nia. Explain. Nia looked toward the paramedics. Madam Kong was being transferred onto a stretcher. This is not the place. My mother is unconscious, Min-jae said. You don't get to decide the place. Nia lowered her voice. She told Seo that if anything happened, she should trust me. Misuk's expression changed again. Only slightly, but enough. Min-jae saw fear move across his aunt's face before she covered it. The paramedics pushed Madam Kong toward the hallway. Min-jae followed immediately. Misuk moved after him, then paused beside Nia. What exactly did that old woman give you? Nothing. Misuk smiled. It was quiet and cold. You are a terrible liar. Then she left. Nia waited until the hallway emptied before removing the key from her pocket. She knew she should call Min-jae back. She knew entering his late wife's room without permission could destroy whatever trust remained between them. But Madam Kong had trusted Seo with the key. And Seo had trusted Nia. That mattered more. The late Mrs. Kang's bedroom was at the far end of the west corridor. The staff avoided it. Min-jae had ordered it preserved exactly as it had been on the night his wife died 3 years earlier. Nia inserted the key. The lock opened with a soft click. The room smelled faintly of cedar and old perfume. Everything looked untouched. A silk robe hung behind the door. A book rested face down on the bedside table. Family photographs lined the shelves. Min-jae smiling more freely than Nia had ever seen him. His wife beside him, and a much younger Seo held between them. Nia's chest tightened. She did not want to invade their grief. But she had come for a reason. She searched carefully without disturbing anything. Desk drawers, cabinets, the wardrobe. Nothing. Then she noticed the book on the bedside table. It was not lying flat. One corner rested slightly higher than the others. Nia lifted it. Beneath it was a small digital voice recorder. Her thumb hovered over the button. Then she pressed play. First there was only static. Then a woman's voice filled the room. Weak, breathless, but unmistakably urgent. If Min-jae is hearing this, then I failed to tell him myself. Nia froze. It was Madam Kong. I no longer believe Soo-jin's death was an accident. She discovered withdrawals from Seo's trust and threatened to expose them. Dr. Choi signed the death report. Misuk controlled the accounts. Nia's pulse thundered. The recording continued. They have started changing Seo's medication. I tried to confront Misuk, but she knows I am watching. If something happens to me, protect the child. The evidence is. The recording cut off. Nia pressed the button again. Nothing. The final sentence was missing. A floorboard creaked behind her. Nia turned. Misuk stood in the doorway. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Misuk looked at the recorder in Nia's hand. So that is what she hid. Nia slipped it into her pocket. Stay away from Seo. Misuk entered and closed the door behind her. You have become confused about your importance in this house. I know exactly how important I am. No, you don't. Misuk moved closer. You are an employee. A temporary comfort for a grieving child. You can be replaced before dinner. Then replace me. Misuk's eyes narrowed. But first, Nia continued, I'm giving this recording to Mr. Kong. You think he will believe you? He'll believe his mother's voice. Will he? Misuk's calm confidence unsettled her. Then the mansion's alarm sounded. A shrill tone echoed through the corridor. Misuk looked toward the ceiling and smiled. Nia rushed from the room. Staff members were gathering in the foyer below. A glass display case had been shattered, and an antique diamond necklace, one that had belonged to Min-jae's grandmother, was missing. Security guards sealed the exits. Min-jae returned from the ambulance entrance just as the head of security approached him. "Sir, no one has left the property. We'll search every room." Misuk descended the stairs behind Nia. "How unfortunate," she said. "Especially today." The search lasted 20 minutes. Then one of the guards came down carrying Nia's suitcase. The necklace was inside. A stunned silence swept through the foyer. Nia stared at it. That was planted. The head of security held up a tablet. "There is more." The screen showed footage of Nia entering the family gallery alone the previous night. Then another clip showed her carrying something wrapped in cloth toward the servants' wing. Nia watched carefully. The woman in the recording wore her clothes, moved like her, but the timestamp was wrong. At 11:47, I was in Seoa's room. Misuk folded her arms. "Convenient." Seo was awake. "She can confirm it." "You would drag a frightened child into this?" Min-jae stared at the necklace, then at Nia. The pain in his expression was worse than anger. "You entered my wife's room without permission." Nia realized Misuk had told him. "I found a recording from your mother." "Where is it?" Nia reached into her pocket. The recorder was gone. Her blood turned cold. Misuk shook her head sadly. "There is no recording, Min-jae. She is inventing stories because she has been caught." Nia looked around the foyer. Every face had already changed. 2 years of loyalty had disappeared beneath one planted necklace. Min-jae's voice became distant and controlled. "Give back your access card, Mr. Kong. Now." Nia removed the card and placed it in his hand. "I did not steal from you." His jaw tightened. "My daughter trusted you. And I protected her. You entered restricted rooms, challenged her medical care, and stole from my family. The medication is harming her. That is enough." Nia's eyes burned, but she refused to let the tears fall. "One day, you will remember that I warned you." Min-jae turned to security. "Escort her out." Soa appeared at the top of the staircase. "Nia." The child ran down, but Misuk caught her before she reached the foyer. Nia looked at her one last time. "Be brave, sweetheart." Then she walked toward the doors without lowering her head. Behind her, Soa began to struggle. "Let me go." Min-jae knelt beside his daughter. Soa, calm down. "She didn't steal it. We'll talk later." "No." The front doors opened. Cold evening air swept inside. Nia stepped beyond the threshold. Soa suddenly stopped fighting. Her face went pale. She looked at her father and whispered. "She was right." Min-jae froze. "About what?" Soa's eyes shifted toward Misuk. Then she said the words that shattered the mansion's silence. "Grandma said Aunt Misuk killed Mommy." The little girl's knees buckled. Min-jae caught her before she hit the marble floor. And upstairs, behind the locked door of his late wife's bedroom, a phone began to ring. "Grandma said Aunt Misuk killed Mommy." For one terrible second, nobody in the foyer moved. So lay unconscious in Min-jae's arms, her face pale against his black suit. Misuk was the first to recover. "She is confused," she said sharply. "The child is frightened and repeating nonsense." Min-jae looked up at her. The expression on his face made the staff step back. "What did she just say?" Misuk approached carefully. "Min-jae, this is not the time. Cho needs a doctor." As if summoned by her words, Dr. Choi entered through the open front doors carrying a medical bag. He had arrived too quickly. Nia, already halfway down the mansion steps, heard his voice behind her. "Lay her flat. Give her space." She stopped. Something inside her refused to keep walking. She turned and saw Dr. Choi kneeling over So while Misuk stood beside him. Min-jae looked trapped between panic and disbelief. Nia rushed back into the foyer. The head of security tried to block her. "Ms. Brooks, you were ordered to leave." She collapsed after taking medicine from that clinic. Dr. Choi looked up. "You are no longer employed here. And you arrived before anyone called you." The words struck the room like glass breaking. Dr. Choi's hand paused above Soa's wrist. Mi-suk answered quickly. "I called him when my sister-in-law collapsed." Nia looked at her. "The ambulance took Madam Kong almost an hour ago. Why is he arriving now?" Mi-suk's mouth tightened. "That is none of your concern. It became my concern when Seowa stopped breathing properly." Min-jae's head snapped down. Seowa's breaths were shallow and uneven. Nia knelt beside her. "Move the scarf away from her neck." Dr. Choi reached for an injection. Nia caught his wrist. "What is that?" "A sedative. She is already barely conscious. Release me." "No." Dr. Choi's voice hardened. "You are interfering with medical treatment. And you are about to sedate a child who cannot keep her eyes open." Min-jae looked from the syringe to his daughter. "What are you giving her?" Dr. Choi hesitated. "Something to control the panic response. She is unconscious. It is a precaution." Nia stared at Min-jae. "If you let him inject her without asking what is inside that syringe, you will regret it." Mi-suk stepped forward. "Security, remove her." "No." Min-jae's voice was quiet. Everyone stopped. He held out his hand to Dr. Choi. "Give me the syringe." The doctor's face changed. "Mr. Kong, give it to me." Reluctantly, Dr. Choi placed it in Min-jae's palm. Min-jae handed it to his head of security. "Send this to an independent laboratory. Tonight." Mi-suk's composure cracked. "You are taking the word of a thief over our family doctor." Min-jae slowly stood, lifting Soa into his arms. "I am taking no one's word." His eyes moved to Nia. "But I am done ignoring questions." He carried Seowa toward the driveway. Nia followed. Mi-suk caught her arm. "You are not going anywhere near that child." Nia looked down at the woman's hand. "Let go of me." Something in her voice made Mi-suk release her. Outside, Min-jae placed Soa in the back seat of his car. Nia opened the opposite door. He looked at her. "You are not coming." She may wake frightened. "I said you are not coming." Nia held his gaze. "And I said something was wrong 3 days ago." Pain flashed across his face, but anger covered it immediately. "You were found with my family's necklace. I was framed. You entered my wife's room. Because your mother gave Seowa the key." Min-jae froze. "What?" Nia reached into her pocket, then remembered the recorder was gone. She still had the key. She opened her hand. Min-jae stared at the small silver object. "Who gave it to me?" "Your mother told her to trust me if anything happened." Mi-suk appeared behind them. "She could have taken that from anywhere." Nia ignored her. There was a recording in Soo-jin's room. At the sound of his wife's name, Min-jae's expression turned cold. "What recording?" "Your mother said Soo-jin discovered money missing from Seowa's trust. She named Dr. Choi and your aunt." "That is a lie," Mi-suk snapped. Nia looked at Min-jae. "The recording disappeared from my pocket before the necklace was found." Min-jae stared at her for a long moment. He wanted to believe she was lying. Nia could see it. Because if she was telling the truth, then the people inside his home had not merely betrayed him. They had murdered his wife. Pa made a weak sound from the car. Min-jae immediately climbed inside. "Take her to Hongang Medical Center," he ordered the driver. "Not the family clinic." Mi-suk stepped toward the vehicle. "I'll come with you." Min-jae shut the door before she could enter. Nia remained standing in the driveway as the car sped away. She expected relief. Instead, she felt abandoned all over again. He had listened just enough to protect his daughter, but not enough to trust the woman who had warned him. The head of security approached. "Ms. Brooks, you still have to leave the property." Nia looked back at the mansion. Through an upstairs window, she saw a curtain move. Someone had been watching them. "I'm leaving," she said. "But tell Mr. Kong something for me." The guard waited. Whoever planted that necklace knew exactly when his mother would collapse. Nia picked up her suitcase and walked through the gates. This time nobody stopped her. At Hongang Medical Center, Seoa was taken into a private emergency suite. Min Jae stood outside while doctors ran blood tests. He called the mansion. "Lock every entrance," he told the security chief. "Nobody leaves." "What about Madam Mi-suk?" "Nobody." He ended the call. His phone rang again. The number was hidden. Min Jae answered. Silence. Then a woman's breathing came through the speaker. "Who is this?" A weak voice whispered. "Min Jae." His entire body went rigid. He knew that voice. He had heard it in dreams for 3 years. "Soo-jin." The line crackled. Then the voice said, "Don't trust the death certificate." The call ended. Min Jae stared at the phone. Impossible. His wife was dead. He had identified her body himself. Before he could call the number back, the emergency room doors opened. Doctor stepped out. "Mr. Kong. How is my daughter?" "She is stable." Min Jae exhaled for the first time in several minutes. "What happened to her?" "We found traces of a strong sedative in her blood." His face hardened. "What kind?" The doctor named the drug. Min Jae had never heard of it. "It is not approved for routine treatment in children," the doctor continued. "Repeated exposure can cause confusion, memory problems, hallucinations, and fainting." Min Jae felt the floor shift beneath him. Could it make a child believe she saw things that never happened? Yes. Could it also make people think she was emotionally unstable? The doctor studied him. Yes. Min Jae looked through the glass at saw lying beneath white sheets. Nia had been right. Not partly right. Completely right. He had forced the medicine on his daughter. He had humiliated the one person who tried to stop him. His phone vibrated. A message from the security laboratory appeared. Preliminary analysis complete. Substance inside syringe inconsistent with stated purpose. Full report pending. Another message arrived from his head of security. "Sir, we found evidence the gallery footage was edited." Min Jae closed his eyes. The truth was not approaching slowly anymore. It was crashing through every locked door in his life. 2 hours later, Saw opened her eyes. Min Jae sat beside her bed. "Daddy, I'm here." She looked around the room. "Where is Nia?" His throat tightened. "She went home." The child turned her face away. "You sent her away. Seoa, I need you to tell me what Grandma said." She pulled the blanket closer. "Bring Nia back. I will talk to her." "No." So looked at him, tears gathering in her eyes. "You have to say sorry first." Min Jae lowered his head. "Tell me about your mother." The child's voice trembled. "Grandma said Mommy found bad papers in Aunt Mi-suk's office." "What papers?" "Money papers." "Did Grandma tell you what happened to Mommy?" Tua nodded. "She said Mommy wanted to take me away until she could prove it." Min Jae's chest tightened. His wife had died in a car accident while driving alone toward Incheon. At least, that was what he had been told. "Why didn't Grandma tell me?" "She tried." He looked toward the door. "But Aunt Mi-suk said you would put Grandma in a hospital if she kept saying strange things." Min Jae went still. "When did she say that?" "Lots of times." His phone rang again. This time it was the head of security. "Sir, we searched Madam Mi-suk's room. And we found the missing voice recorder." Min Jae's hand tightened around the phone. "There is something else. The necklace found in Ms. Brooks's suitcase is a replica." "A replica?" "The original is still inside the gallery vault." Min Jae rose slowly. The evidence against Nia had not simply been weak. It had been manufactured. Every image, every accusation, every reason he had used to condemn her. "Find Nia," he ordered. "We have tried. Her phone is switched off." Then go to her apartment. There is a problem, sir. Min-jae's pulse quickened. What problem? Someone arrived there before us. Across Seoul, Nia stepped out of a taxi and immediately knew something was wrong. The front door to her apartment stood slightly open. She had locked it that morning. She placed her suitcase quietly against the wall and reached for her phone. No signal. The screen flashed once, then went black. From inside the apartment came the faint sound of a music box. Fo had given it to her on her birthday. Nia never left it playing. She pushed the door open. The living room had been torn apart. Cushions slashed. Drawers emptied. Photographs scattered across the floor. On the wall above the sofa, someone had written a message in red lipstick. You should have kept walking. Nia heard movement behind her. She turned just as a shadow filled the doorway. And before she could scream, a gloved hand covered her mouth. The gloved hand tightened over Nia's mouth. For one terrifying second she could not breathe. The stranger dragged her backward into the apartment and kicked the door shut. Nia fought instinctively, driving her heel into his shin. He grunted but did not release her. His other hand reached toward her throat. Then Nia saw the reflection in the dark television screen. Man. Black jacket. Medical mask. And clipped to his belt was a white identification card bearing the logo of the Kong family clinic. Dr. Choi had not come alone. Nia forced herself to stop struggling. The man loosened his grip slightly, believing she was weakening. That was his mistake. She threw her head backward. The back of her skull struck his nose. He staggered. Nia twisted free, grabbed the ceramic lamp from the side table, and swung it into his shoulder. The lamp shattered against the wall. The attacker lunged again. Nia ran toward the kitchen. He caught the back of her dress, tearing the fabric, but she grabbed the kettle from the stove and threw the hot water toward him. He shouted and covered his face. Nia seized the opportunity, sprinted into the hallway and screamed, "Help!" A neighbor's door opened. Then another. The attacker stopped at the apartment entrance. For a moment, his eyes met Nia's above the medical mask. There was no panic in them, only a warning. He turned and ran down the emergency staircase. Nia reached for a neighbor's phone. Her fingers were shaking so badly that she nearly dropped it. She did not call the police first. She called the one man she had every reason never to trust again. Min-jae answered before the second ring. "Nia." He froze. He knew it was her even though she was calling from an unfamiliar number. "Someone broke into my apartment." His voice changed instantly. "Are you hurt?" "I'm alive." "Where is he?" "Gone." "Do not move." "I'm coming." Nia closed her eyes. "You don't need to come." "I should have come sooner." The line went silent between them. Then Min-jae said the words she had not expected to hear from him. "I was wrong." Nia looked at the red message on her wall. "This is not the time for an apology." "No," he replied. "It is the time for the truth." 20 minutes later, 2 black vehicles stopped outside Nia's building. Min-jae entered the apartment with his private security team. He stopped when he saw the destruction. Torn photographs, the overturned furniture, the warning on the wall. His eyes moved to Nia's ripped sleeve and the bruise forming near her jaw. Something dark entered his expression. Who did this? Nia showed him the identification card she had torn from the attacker's belt during the struggle. The name printed across it was Lee Dong-hyun. Min-jae recognized it immediately. Dr. Choi's medical assistant. Nia gave a bitter laugh. "The same doctor your family told me never to question." Min-jae accepted the words without defending himself. "The necklace was fake," he said. "The security footage was altered. We found your recorder in Mi-suk's room." Nia stared at him. "So now you believe me?" "Yes. Because evidence cleared me. Because I should have believed your character before the evidence arrived." The answer surprised her. But it did not erase what had happened. "You stood in front of everyone and called me a thief." "I know." You let your daughter watch you throw away the only person she trusted. I know. Nia stepped closer. No. You know the facts. You don't know what it felt like. Min-jae lowered his eyes. You're right. For once he did not argue. A security officer entered carrying a laptop. Sir, we recovered something from the attacker's car. He placed the laptop on Nia's kitchen counter. On the screen was a photograph of Madame Kong lying unconscious in the hospital. The image had been taken less than 30 minutes earlier. Someone inside the hospital was watching her. Nia's anger disappeared beneath fresh fear. Seoa. She is safe, Min-jae said quickly. I moved her to another floor under a false name. Who knows? Only me and the independent doctor. Nia looked at him sharply. And you're head of security. Min-jae hesitated. Yes. Then 3 people know. His expression tightened. You think someone inside your security team is involved? I think your aunt has known every move inside that mansion before it happened. The officer cleared his throat. There is something else. He opened a second file. It showed years of bank transfers from Seoa's trust to companies registered in Singapore, Hong Kong, and the Cayman Islands. The amounts were staggering. Min-jae stared at the screen. These approvals carry my electronic signature. Were they yours? Nia asked. No. The officer enlarged one transaction. It had been authorized 3 years earlier. The day before Soo-jin died. Nia felt the room grow colder. Your wife found the missing money. Min-jae nodded slowly. And she threatened to expose it. The recorder recovered from Mi-suk's room was placed on the counter. Min-jae pressed play. His mother's voice filled the apartment. If Min-jae is hearing this, then I failed to tell him myself. Soo-jin discovered withdrawals from Seoa's trust and threatened to expose them. Dr. Choi signed the death report. Mi-suk controlled the accounts. This time the recording did not stop where Nia remembered. Continued. The evidence is hidden inside the music box Soo-jin gave Seoa. There is a second compartment beneath the velvet lining. Nia's breath caught. The music box. Min-jae looked at her. Where is it? It was here. They both turned toward the living room. The shelf where Nia kept Seoa's gift was empty. The attacker had taken it. Min-jae immediately called his security chief. Search every camera within 5 kilometers of Nia's building. Find Lee Dong-hyun. The man on the phone responded too quickly. We already traced his vehicle. Min-jae frowned. How? There was a pause. Then the security chief answered. One of the traffic cameras picked him up. Where is he going? Toward the old Kangseong Hotel near Incheon. Nia watched Min-jae's face. Something about the answer unsettled him. Send me the footage. Another pause. Sir, the system is temporarily unavailable. Nia stepped closer and whispered. He knew the attacker's name before you told him. Min-jae went still. The security chief continued speaking through the phone. Mr. Kong. Min-jae's voice became cold. Where is my daughter? At Hongang Medical Center, sir. Which floor? 7th. He was on the 9th floor. Under a false name. Min-jae ended the call. For a moment he said nothing. Then he looked at the officer beside him. Arrest Chief Kim. The officer hesitated. Sir, Chief Kim controls the entire security network. That is exactly why. Min-jae grabbed his coat. We are going to the hospital. They reached Hongang Medical Center in 12 minutes. The private corridor was empty. Too empty. The 2 officers stationed outside Seoa's room were gone. Min-jae ran toward the door. Stood open. Inside the bed was empty. The blanket had been pulled to the floor. Nia rushed to the bathroom. Me. On the bedside table sat Seoa's stuffed rabbit. Beneath it was a white envelope. Min-jae opened it. Inside was a photograph of Seoa asleep in the back seat of a car. On the back, someone had written, "Bring the voice recorder and sign control of the company over to Mi-suk. No police. No security. Midnight. Old Kangseong Hotel." Min-jae crushed the card in his fist. Nia picked up the child's rabbit. One of its fabric ears had been cut open. Something metallic glinted inside. She reached into the stuffing and removed a tiny silver object. A memory card. Min-jae stared at it. Soo-jin hid another copy. Nia looked at the empty hospital bed. No, Soo did. They inserted the card into a hospital computer. A video appeared. Soo-jin sat inside her car, speaking directly into the camera. She looked frightened but determined. If anything happens to me, Mi-suk and Dr. Choi are responsible. But they are not acting alone. Min-jae leaned closer. Soo-jin continued. The person helping them is someone Min-jae trusts completely. The video glitched. Then a final image appeared. Chief Kim standing beside Mi-suk outside the family clinic. He was handing her a copy of Min-jae's private schedule. Nia looked at Min-jae. Your head of security told them where Soo was. His face hardened. He also told them where my wife would be driving the night she died. The video ended. Min-jae turned toward the door. I'm going to the hotel. Nia stepped in front of him. So am I. No. They took Soo because of what she knows. She will be terrified. I will not put you in more danger. You already did when you refused to listen. The words stopped him. Nia held his gaze. I know how Soo thinks when she is frightened. I know the songs she hums to calm herself. I know where she hides when she believes adults are coming to hurt her. You need me. Min-jae wanted to argue. But this time he chose the truth. Yes, he said quietly. I do. Before they could leave, the hospital telephone rang. Min-jae answered. Mi-suk's voice came through the speaker. Bring Nia with you. Min-jae's eyes moved to her. Mi-suk laughed softly. The child refuses to tell us where she hid the original evidence. A muffled cry sounded in the background. Nia gripped the edge of the desk. Then Seo's frightened voice came through the line. Nia. I'm here, sweetheart. They found Grandma's recording. Nia forced her voice to remain steady. Listen to me. You did nothing wrong. Mi-suk returned to the phone. Midnight. Come alone, or the girl loses more than her inheritance. The line went dead. Min-jae checked the time. They had 47 minutes. But at the old Kangseong Hotel, Soo was not waiting helplessly. While Mi-suk and Dr. Choi argued in the next room, the little girl removed a hairpin Nia had taught her to keep hidden inside her sleeve. She knelt beside the locked door and began working on the lock. Seo's hands trembled as she pushed the hairpin deeper into the lock. Nia had shown her the trick months earlier, not because she expected the child to escape kidnappers, but because Seo had once locked herself inside the mansion's music room. You don't force a lock, Nia had told her gently. You listen to it. Now, kneeling on the dusty floor of the abandoned hotel room, Seo closed her eyes and listened. Soft clicks sounded. The door opened. Seo slipped into the corridor. The old Kangseong Hotel had been closed for nearly 10 years. Its chandeliers were covered in dust, its wallpaper peeled in long strips, and cold air moved through broken windows overlooking the dark water near Incheon. Voices came from the ballroom below. Seo crept toward the staircase and looked through the rusted railing. Aunt Mi-suk stood near the center of the ballroom, dressed in a dark coat. Dr. Choi paced beside her, while Chief Kim watched the entrance with 2 armed men. On a table behind them rested the music box stolen from Nia's apartment. Dr. Choi slammed his hand against the table. The compartment is empty. Mi-suk stared at him. You said the evidence was inside. That is what the recording said. Then the child moved it. Chief Kim turned toward the stairs. She won't remain silent once Min-jae arrives. Mi-suk's expression remained calm. She does not need to remain silent forever. Only until the transfer documents are signed. Seo covered her mouth to stop herself from crying. Then Mi-suk said something that froze her in place. After tonight, Min-jae will believe the nanny caused the child's death while trying to escape. Dr. Choi looked uncomfortable. And Nia? A grieving employee who became obsessed with the family. The public will believe whatever evidence we give them. Chief Kim smiled. It worked before. Mi-suk looked at him. Yes. Soo-jin's accident convinced everyone. Siwa's eyes widened. She backed away from the railing. Her mother had not died in an accident. Nia had been right. Grandma had been right. Everyone who had tried to protect her had been telling the truth. He reached inside her sock and removed a tiny phone. Nia had given it to her after one of her panic attacks. It only calls 3 people, she had explained. Your father, your grandmother, and me. He pressed Nia's name. Across the city, Nia sat beside Min-jae in the back of an unmarked vehicle. His phone rang first. Kyoa had accidentally called both emergency contacts. Min-jae answered immediately. Seoa. The child did not speak. Only distant voices came through the line. Nia leaned closer. Put it on speaker. Mi-suk's voice filled the car. After tonight, Min-jae will believe the nanny caused the child's death while trying to escape. Min-jae's face became completely still. Nia touched his arm. Don't react. She may hear us. The phone shifted. Then Seo whispered. Nia. I'm here. I opened the door. Nia closed her eyes with relief. Good girl. Where are you? Upstairs. I can see the big room. Stay hidden. I heard them talking about mommy. Min-jae gripped the edge of his seat. Nia kept her voice steady. We are coming for you. Do not go near the stairs. A floorboard creaked through the phone. One of the armed men looked up. Did you hear that? Uran. The phone filled with the sound of hurried footsteps. Seoa. Nia shouted. The line went dead. Min-jae leaned toward the driver. Faster. They were still 10 minutes away. Nia stared through the windshield at the dark road ahead. She will hide. How can you know that? Because I taught her what to do when she feels trapped. Min-jae looked at her. What did you teach her? To find a place adults overlook because they believe children only hide close to the floor. At the hotel, Seo climbed. She ran past the 2nd floor, then the 3rd, ignoring the pain in her legs. Behind her, heavy footsteps echoed through the stairwell. She reached the old service level beneath the roof. The door was chained, but the gap was wide enough for her small body. She squeezed through and crawled into the hotel's abandoned linen chute. The armed man reached the landing seconds later. He looked inside a storage closet, then beneath a broken service cart. He never looked above him. Seo held her breath inside the narrow chute. Below, Mi-suk shouted. Find her. Outside the hotel, Min-jae's vehicle stopped before the rusted gates. Only Nia and Min-jae stepped out. The independent police unit Min-jae had contacted waited several streets away. He had refused to use his company's security network, unsure how many people Chief Kim controlled. A message appeared on his phone. We have the perimeter. Keep them talking until we confirm the child's location. Min-jae reached beneath his coat. Nia saw the weapon. No. He looked at her. If they touch my daughter. If you enter angry, they will use it against you. They murdered my wife. And they are expecting a grieving husband who cannot think clearly. Min-jae's jaw tightened. Nia continued. Seoa needs her father. Not his revenge. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he handed the weapon to the officer hidden beside the gate. They entered the hotel together. The ballroom doors stood open. Mi-suk waited at the far end with Dr. Choi and Chief Kim. The music box sat on the table beside a stack of documents. But Seoa was nowhere in sight. Min-jae stopped. Where is my daughter? Mi-suk smiled. Sign the documents. Let me see her. You have never been good at following instructions. Nia stepped forward. Neither have you. Mi-suk's eyes moved to her. The faithful nanny. Even after he humiliated you, you still came running back. I came for Seoa. Of course you did. You need everyone to believe you are important. Nia looked around the ballroom. Where is she? Mi-suk picked up the music box. Tell me where the evidence is. I don't know. You expect me to believe that. The compartment was empty when you found it, wasn't it? Dr. Choi looked at Mi-suk. The brief exchange was enough. Nia understood. They never had the evidence, she said. Chief Kim moved closer. But you do. No. Mi-suk laughed. Your loyalty is touching, Nia. But Min-jae has already proved how little you mean to him. Min-jae's face tightened. Nia did not look at him. I know exactly what he did. Then why are you here? Because a child should not pay for the failures of adults. The words silenced the ballroom. Mi-suk's smile disappeared. Min-jae stepped toward the table. You killed Soo-jin. Mi-suk did not deny it. She was going to destroy the family. She was protecting her daughter. She was stealing control from us. It was Seoa's inheritance. It was power, Mi-suk snapped. Power your father never intended to leave in the hands of a frightened little girl. Min-jae stared at her. You changed Seoa's medication. Dr. Choi interrupted. There is no proof of that. Min-jae turned toward him. The syringe you attempted to use at the mansion contained the same sedative found in her blood. The doctor's face paled. Chief Kim reached for his weapon. Nia saw the movement first. Min-jae. She shoved him aside as the gun fired. The bullet shattered a mirror behind them. Police officers stormed through the side entrances. Chief Kim fired again, but an officer struck his arm. The weapon skidded across the floor. Dr. Choi attempted to run. 2 officers brought him down before he reached the service corridor. Mi-suk grabbed the music box and rushed toward the staircase. Nia followed. Where is Seoa? Mi-suk stopped halfway up the steps and pulled a small knife from her coat. Stay back. Nia did not stop. You don't have the child. I know where she is. No, you don't. Mi-suk's eyes shifted upward. Nia saw it. The roof. Min-jae ran past them. Mi-suk turned to stop him, but Nia caught her wrist. The knife fell between the stairs. Mi-suk slapped Nia hard across the face. Nia staggered, then steadied herself. You should have taken the money and disappeared, Mi-suk hissed. You should never have threatened a child I love. Nia pulled the older woman's arm behind her and forced her against the railing until the police reached them. On the service level, Min-jae heard a faint sound inside the wall. Child humming. The same melody Nia used whenever Seoa had nightmares. He followed the sound to the linen chute. Seoa. The humming stopped. Daddy. Min-jae tore the rusted panel open. Fo crawled into his arms. For the first time in years, Kong Min-jae broke completely. He dropped to his knees and held his daughter against his chest, his body shaking as she wrapped her small arms around his neck. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Nia reached the landing moments later. Fo saw her and stretched out one hand. Nia. Nia knelt beside them. The child moved into her arms, crying against her shoulder. I knew you would come. I promised. Min-jae watched them. Then So reached beneath her sweater and removed a small plastic card taped against her skin. She placed it in Nia's hand. What is this? Nia asked. The evidence. Min-jae stared. Fo wiped her eyes. Grandma told me not to put it in the music box. She said bad people listen when old people talk. The memory card contained everything. Bank records, altered prescriptions, payments to Dr. Choi, messages between Mi-suk and Chief Kim, and the final video Soo-jin recorded hours before her death. By morning, the story had already reached the national press. But Min-jae refused to allow his public relations team to control it. He called an emergency meeting of the Kangseong board and invited investigators, journalists, household staff, and every executive who had witnessed Nia's dismissal. Nia stood outside the boardroom doors. Min-jae approached her. You don't have to go inside. Yes, I do. I can tell them what happened. They heard your voice when you called me a thief. Nia looked directly into his eyes. Now they will hear mine. The doors opened. Inside, Mi-suk's empty chair sat at the center of the table. Min-jae walked to the podium. Cameras turned toward him. He could have blamed his aunt. He could have hidden behind forged evidence and grief. Instead, he looked toward Nia and said, "3 nights ago, I publicly accused an innocent woman because believing a lie was easier than questioning my own family." The room fell silent. "I fired the one person who saw the danger surrounding my daughter. I ignored her warnings. I humiliated her in front of my staff. And if she had responded with the same indifference I showed her, my daughter might not be alive." He stepped away from the podium. Nia Brooks deserves more than a private apology. Then he faced every camera in the room. She deserves the truth. And for the first time since entering the Kong mansion, Nia walked forward not as an employee, not as a suspect, and not as a woman waiting for a powerful man to defend her. She walked forward as the person who had uncovered what an entire empire had tried to bury. The boardroom had never been so quiet. Nia Brooks stood beneath the bright conference lights while cameras pointed toward her from every direction. 3 nights earlier, those same executives had watched security drag her from the Kong mansion. Some had looked disappointed. Some had looked satisfied. Most had simply looked away. Now none of them could. On the screen behind Nia appeared the first altered prescription. Then the forged trust documents. Then the payments made to Dr. Choi. Finally, Soo-jin's recorded testimony filled the room. "If anything happens to me, Mi-suk and Dr. Choi are responsible." The late woman's voice shook, but her words did not. She explained how Mi-suk had withdrawn money from Seoa's inheritance through shell companies. When Soo-jin threatened to expose her, Chief Kim provided the route she would take to Incheon. Dr. Choi later signed a false report claiming Soo-jin had been impaired while driving. The crash had not been an accident, had been arranged. When the recording ended, several members of the board lowered their heads. Nia looked toward them. "You believed I was guilty because the evidence appeared convincing," she said. "But some of you believed it because accusing a nanny was easier than questioning a wealthy family." No one interrupted her. "I was expected to know my place, to care for the child, follow instructions, and remain silent when I saw something dangerous." Her voice remained calm. But protecting a child sometimes means refusing to obey the adults around her. Min-jae stood several feet away. He did not step forward. He did not try to share her moment. He simply listened. Nia turned toward the household staff seated near the back of the room. "I know some of you were afraid. I know what it costs to challenge powerful people." Her eyes settled briefly on the maid who had washed Madame Kang's teacup. "But silence also has a cost. So almost paid it." The maid began to cry. She rose shakily. "I saw Madame Mi-suk add something to the tea." A murmur moved through the room. The woman wiped her face. "She threatened to have my husband deported if I spoke." "I am sorry." Nia nodded. "Then tell the investigators everything." One confession became another. A driver admitted that Chief Kim had ordered him to erase travel records. A clinic receptionist revealed that Dr. Choi kept 2 sets of medical files for Seoa. An accountant confirmed that Mi-suk had been transferring money from the child's trust for years. The empire had survived through silence. Now it was collapsing because people had finally started speaking. By the end of the hearing, the board voted unanimously to remove Mi-suk from every position connected to Kangseong Holdings. Chief Kim and Dr. Choi were charged with kidnapping, attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and evidence tampering. Mi-suk faced additional charges connected to Soo-jin's death. But Min-jae knew prison alone would not repair what had happened. When the reporters prepared to leave, he returned to the podium. "There is one more matter." The room settled again. Min-jae looked directly into the cameras. "The accusation against Nia Brooks will be withdrawn publicly and permanently. Kangseong Holdings will cover the legal costs required to clear every record connected to the false allegation." Nia watched him carefully. He continued, "I am also stepping down temporarily as chief executive, while an independent investigation reviews every decision made under my authority." Several board members reacted immediately. Mr. Kong. He raised one hand. I ignored a warning because it came from someone with less power than the people contradicting her. That failure nearly cost my daughter her life. His gaze moved to Nia. It is not enough to expose my aunt and pretend I had no responsibility. For the first time, Nia saw something in Min-jae that had been missing before. Not regret. Accountability. They were not the same thing. Regret asked to be forgiven. Accountability accepted that forgiveness might never come. Outside the boardroom, reporters crowded the hallway. Nia expected Min-jae's security team to surround her. Instead, he stopped several steps behind. The choice was hers. She walked toward the cameras alone. Ms. Brooks, a reporter shouted. Will you return to work for the Kong family? Nia looked toward the microphone. No. Min-jae did not react. Another reporter leaned forward. Why not? Because being proven innocent does not mean I must return to the position where I was mistreated. The answer spread through the hallway in a ripple. Do you forgive Mr. Kong? Nia paused. Forgiveness is personal. Trust is earned. Then she walked away. 3 days later, Madame Kong opened her eyes. Min-jae sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand. Soa slept curled in a chair near the window, while Nia stood quietly beside her. Madame Kang's gaze moved between them. Is it over? She whispered. Min-jae nodded. Mi-suk has been arrested. His mother closed her eyes. And Soo-jin. We found her recording. Tears slipped down the elderly woman's cheeks. I tried to tell you. I know. No, her fingers tightened around his. You know now. But I tried before. Min-jae lowered his head. His mother had warned him after Soo-jin's death. He had believed grief and age were confusing her memories. Mi-suk had encouraged him to believe it. But the choice had still been his. I failed you, he said. Madame Kong looked toward Nia. You nearly failed her too. Nia did not look away. Min-jae nodded. I did. Madame Kang's expression softened, but only slightly. Then do not ask her to make your guilt easier. Nia almost smiled. Even from a hospital bed, Madame Kong remained direct. Thua stirred in the chair. When she saw her grandmother awake, she ran to the bed. Grandma! Madame Kong wrapped one weak arm around her. You remembered what I told you. Thua nodded proudly. I gave Nia the key. And the memory card. I hid it under my clothes. Madame Kong kissed her forehead. My brave girl. Later that evening, Nia and Min-jae stood alone in the hospital corridor. There was something he had not yet explained. The call, Nia said. The voice that sounded like Soo-jin. Min-jae removed a phone from his pocket. It came from the device hidden in her bedroom. Soo-jin had created a digital deadman system before her death. If the old phone was activated after years of inactivity, it automatically sent stored recordings to Min-jae's private number. The ringing in the bedroom had been the system waking. The call had not come from a living woman, but it had come from a woman who refused to let the truth die with her. She prepared for the possibility that no one would believe her, Nia said. Min-jae stared through the hospital window. I did not believe any of them. Your wife, your mother, your daughter, me. He nodded. I spent years believing mistrust made me strong. And now I think it only made me easy to manipulate. Nia studied him. He looked exhausted. Not like a billionaire. Not like a feared CEO. Just a man standing inside the ruins of his own certainty. I am sorry, he said. I know. I don't expect that to repair anything. It doesn't. He accepted the answer. What will you do now? Nia looked through the glass at Seo. I have been thinking about starting a childcare agency. Min-jae turned toward her. An agency. For nannies and caregivers. Proper training. Legal protection. Background checks for the families too. Not only the workers. A small smile touched his face. You want to investigate the employers. Someone should. I would like to invest. No. The answer came so quickly that he almost laughed. Nia continued. I will accept introductions to lawyers, accountants, and licensing experts. But the business will belong to me. Understood. And you will not send money secretly through another company. His eyebrows lifted. You think I would do that? Yes. For the first time since the nightmare began, Min-jae laughed. It was brief, but real. 6 months later, Nia opened the doors of Brooks Family Care in Central Seoul. The agency trained caregivers to recognize signs of abuse, medication problems, financial exploitation, and emotional distress in children. Madam Kong became its first public supporter. Min-jae kept his promise. He did not own a share. He helped only when Nia asked. Hwa visited every Saturday. Officially, she came to help arrange toys in the children's room. In reality, she spent most of her time sitting behind Nia's desk and offering opinions nobody requested. One afternoon, Min-jae arrived to collect her. Hwa was asleep on the small sofa. Nia covered her with a blanket. She still has nightmares, Min-jae said. Not as often. She asks for you. I know. He hesitated. Sometimes I do too. Nia looked up. There was no performance in his expression. No command. No expectation. Only honesty. You cannot turn gratitude into love, she said. I know. And you cannot love someone because she saved your family. I know that too. Then why are you here? Min-jae glanced at the sleeping child. Because you challenge me when I am wrong. Because you do not fear my silence. Because you built something after I tried to reduce you to what you did for my household. He looked back at her. And because when I imagine a life where you never walk through the door again, the house feels empty. Nia's expression softened. But she did not rush toward him. Trust is earned, she reminded him. I remember. Slowly. As slowly as you need. Their first dinner was not held in a luxury hotel. Nia chose a small restaurant near the Han River where nobody cared about Min-jae's surname. Their second dinner ended in an argument about whether Seowa needed another tablet. Their third ended with Min-jae walking Nia home beneath the rain, neither of them willing to say goodbye. A year after the night Nia was fired, the three of them stood in the Kong Mansion's foyer. The place looked different. Mi-suk's portraits were gone. The staff were protected by new reporting policies. And the gallery display that had once held the fake necklace now contained Soo-jin's restored music box. He took Nia's hand. Are you staying for dinner? Nia looked at Min-jae. He did not answer for her. Yes, she said. Hwa smiled. Forever. Nia laughed softly. One dinner at a time. Min-jae held out his hand. After a moment, Nia placed hers inside it. Not because he was powerful. Not because she needed saving. And not because one apology erased the past. She chose him because he had finally learned that love was not ownership, trust was not obedience, and protecting someone sometimes began with believing the voice everyone else found convenient to ignore. He looked up at them. I told you she was right. Min-jae smiled. Yes, you did. And this time, no one whispered the truth. They allowed it to fill the whole house. If this story touched you, tell us in the comments. Could you forgive someone who publicly doubted your loyalty? Like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes that dignity, truth, and love should never depend on wealth or status.